Hey y'all, it's Laura and welcome back to another Cocoa Vanilla Studio video. This time we have 5 photos on this layout and I am super excited to use this absolutely stunning cut apart sheet. Now this is a style of cut apart that Zoe from Cocoa Vanilla has done several different times, and not every single collection has it, but I love it for this particular reason. It's such a fun way to get a bunch of different patterns in like 3x4 and 4x6 cards, but also you can use it as a background for a ton of photos in a modified grid. And so this absolutely fun design makes me so happy when I find it in the new collections too. So I am bringing in all 5 of these photos from our trip to the museum, and I have trimmed down 2 of them into roughly 3.5 by 3, and then 3 of them are in 3x4, and that's just to give me a little bit more wiggle room on the layout so that not every photo is the same size, and it gives me more options with my embellishing to kind of play around with adding words and phrases and embellishments on the sides. So I'm going through my embellishment tray here on the side and pulling in lots of bits and pieces. Now this little embellishment tray is just something I picked up online, super cheap. It's actually a condiment tray that you might use with a buffet, and it works perfectly for holding embellishments in different packages. So I keep my fussy cut embellishments down at the bottom, little stars there. I have my die cut embellishments in the center, and then the cut aparts were at the top. And I'm using a lot of cut aparts on this layout. I personally am a huge fan of cut aparts. I think they are a great way to get some extra little embellishments in there without buying multiple packs. And so I'm loving that Zoe puts these beautiful, well-planned cut apart sheets in her collections that not only give you 3x4 cards, but also give you word phrases, labels, and sometimes tabs and tags. So it's so much fun to see how she has reimagined the cut apart sheet and how useful it is, because it really is useful. Now for some of the squares, I have decided to use cut aparts to cover them up, and that is just simply because I wanted to add some more words. And because the background of this paper is of course just patterns, this allows me to give a little bit more personality to the page by popping some of these words on there as well. And these photos have a lot of bright, bold colors in them, so I'm not too worried about them getting lost in the background. And I'm also trying to kind of limit the color scheme a little bit. So you'll notice that that green always be your awesome self is covering up a light blue square and just bringing more of that same green that is elsewhere on the page into the top level. And I've taken the navy blue and kind of accented that in a couple of places as well. So those are the main colors that I'm putting a lot of emphasis on. With some of the brighter, bolder colors like the yellows, oranges, and reds, I'm using more for embellishment and for just like the little detail bits and pieces. So kind of limiting the color scheme to like the greens and the blues with a little bit of gray and black added in, and then those bold colors again are just the kind of secondary colors I'm using on this one. Now at the top left and the bottom right, I decided that the best way to go with this layout was to create a little bit of a mirroring effect in a couple of places to kind of make it feel cohesive. So at the top left, I've got my photo and a large cut apart piece for some journaling, and then I've added a word phrase underneath. The bottom right, I've done the same thing. I've got my photo, I've got a cut apart journaling spot, and a word phrase underneath. And so by mirroring those two in the opposite corners, that helps to create a more cohesive effect on what is otherwise a fairly busy background. Now in some of the spaces that don't have photos or cards with words on them, I'm going to go ahead and put in some really fun embellishment clusters. The one in the second row next to You Rock My World has 3 little tickets, and then I've put a little banner on top. Off to the far right in the center, we've got a tag on top of a frame with a little rocket ship on top. And then at the bottom, I'm kind of building a title there at the bottom, and I'm going to be doing a lot of detail work on that particular piece because my favorite photos on this entire spread happen to be on the bottom row, and this helps to kind of draw attention down to those photos and give them a little extra oomph on the layout, a little extra attention. And so I'm going to have this awesome here in the center, and then I'm going to build up a bunch of these tiny little circles across the bottom that create a border at the top and the bottom. They're circles, they're stars. So little stars across the border at the top and the bottom of the awesome card spot. And overall, this kind of gives the effect of a pocket page, but instead of doing individual cards, it's all connected as one big layout. And I really, really like the way that this turns out. I think it's really fun. I think it's energetic, and I think it's quite busy, which is a good thing for a layout that has 5 photos on it and is a very active and crazy activity. Running around this hands-on museum was something that my kids loved doing, and it was definitely an energetic an energy-filled day, and I think this layout really captures that mood. Now, to finish off the clusters, I'm adding in some of these stars. Some of them are from the die cut pack there, so I'm tucking those in behind the word phrases, and then I'm using some of the tiny little fussy cut stars from the Nebula pattern paper, and I absolutely love when Zoe does these big bold papers that have so many shapes you could cut out and use for embellishments. Perfection. It just makes the collection so much more usable, so much more versatile, and I really love those details in her collections. And in No Limits, it's stars, and so I made sure to put lots of stars kind of mixed in with the word phrases and the clusters all around. On the little cut aparts that have the words like "You Rock My World" and "Always Be Your Awesome Self," I added just a couple of really teeny tiny stars just for a little something extra, but nothing that's going to draw too much attention to itself, because I do still want the photos to stand out and to take most of the attention. So to finish this one off, I do have some little tiny word phrases I'm going to add on to it, as well as some banners. I like the 6x12 sticker sheet having all of those word phrases at the bottom. It's really fun, and the word phrases are always perfect. They are generic enough that you can use them on a variety of different layouts, but they're also sometimes a little tongue-in-cheek, and they're sometimes really fun and kind of silly, and I love that too. I think they have a good mix of the more generic ones and the silly kind of fun ones, which, since I scrap most of my layouts with Cocoa Vanilla using my kids' photos, it's great to have that balance of the generic and just the silly fun ones. So this layout is coming together very quickly. It actually did not take me that long to put together, which I was kind of surprised by, because it is such a full layout. The whole page is filled, and so I was kind of surprised that it came together so quickly, but it really did, and I love how it turned out. The bold colors and the energy in it is just perfect for these photos. Finished up with a few little bits of chipboard, brought in some of these little planets that I scattered around the page, and then I'm also going to bring in, I think, a star or a word phrase. I think it was a word phrase that I've added on top of the rocket ship. And again, this just gives a little bit more dimension to a otherwise kind of flat layout. I will go back and probably peel off some of the chipboard layers behind it so it doesn't stand out too much and make the layout feel a little lumpy, but I do love the mix of both chipboard, and I think I brought in some puffy stickers. Yep, these little tiny puffy stickers. A lot of the little circles made it onto this layout as well, especially in that little tag hole. So if you don't necessarily want to put twine in your tag hole, another option is to use little puffy stickers or sequins or enamel dots, things like that, to fill that little tag hole and give it just a purpose without having to add in some twine. Because for me, I think the twine would have drawn a little bit too much attention to that square, and since there's no photos in it, I'm trying not to do that. This was such a fun one to put together. All these little details, I think, really make it come together beautifully. And now that everything that is all glued and taped down, I'm going to finish it off with some scattering and splattering. Scattering I did, of course, with the teeny tiny little stars and the puffy stickers, and then the splattering I do in 2 phases. one with some Nuvo drops for a controlled splatter around all of those clusters, and one with some gold ink spray that I'm going to use for a little bit of uncontrolled splatter in just a few places. Now this layout didn't really have a lot of open space that really needed a ton of splattering, but I do enjoy the look of splatter quite a bit, and so I added it in just a few places around the page, just kind of trying to be very careful not to get it onto my photos. This one's just about done. If you have any questions or comments, please put them down below. Be sure to check out the blog at cocovanilla.com.au for some more details and more photos. And until next time, bye y'all.